public disservice announcement. I'm going to be talking about shop safety. And the reason I decided to do this again, I did a previous video kind of focusing in on the anger grinder. I am going to include the anger grinder again in this video, but I think that this needs to be said because without calling out anybody by name, which would start a massive cat fight, there's a lot of YouTubers, prominent, very prominent YouTubers, and YouTubers not so prominent that have very questionable safety practices. And so what I want to do for you YouTubers out there that are not in a shop, that watch these people and think that what they do is on high without question, and what they're doing is just fine because they're, skilled or whatever, then I'm going to tell you that you're completely wrong. And if you have hopes of starting your own shop and you're doing what they're doing, then in all likelihood, you could end up losing a finger, an arm, an eye, or even your life. So I'm going to set a default as to what shop safety should be. Now, I have been injured in the shop. I have been lax with shop safety, and I'm not taking any more chances anymore. Previously, I was a mechanic. I had a different set of shop safety rules. Now I'm in a machine shop, which require yet a different set of safety rules. So these rules are going to apply to the machine shop and not the auto shop. So we'll start with the grinder. And the first thing you'll notice is my grinder is just sitting unsecured on the bench. I'm not using it right now. I'm going to be building a platform for it, and it won't be on the bench anymore. It'll have its own spot in the shop. I'm still in the process of building the shop. I'm not in production yet. I'm not technically, quote unquote, using the shop. I'm putting the shop together right now. So that's where I'm at. I have a business I'm trying to start. I'm not doing this channel to, make content that, you're going to fall in love with and be all super duper creative. That's not what I'm doing. That's just a side thing. I am trying to build a business. So there's certain things I'm working on that I'm trying to get to, and this is one of them. So obviously you're going to want your grinder secured so that it can't move. You don't want this thing moving when you're pressing work on the wheels. That's a given. That can lead to an accident. The other thing you're going to want is your protection on here. Now, I have had in the past those nuts in there come off and the flywheel or the grinding wheel come off. Okay? That's really dangerous. And consequently, if you don't have any of this protection and your grinding wheel comes off and it lands on the ground, crashes on the ground, and it doesn't break and it's just fine, well, you can go ahead and put it on there and use it again. Not! You drop this wheel on the ground, it goes in the garbage. You don't put it back on the grinder. You drop it on the ground and you put it back on here, you have a chance of this exploding. And this wheel explodes, it will kill you. If not, take out an eye, embed fragments into your body, or whatever else. So you want your shroud on here because if by some chance this wheel does break and explode, most of it's going to be contained in there. You still are probably going to have some that come out here. That's why when you're using one of these, you stand to the side. You don't stand in front of it, ever. You do not stand in front of the grinder. Okay, I'm going to say that one more time. Do not stand in front of the grinder. Okay? Now, I don't wear gloves because if I'm doing close work, I don't need the glove getting sucked in there. I also, if your grinder's mounted on a bench, then the area around it needs to be clean and clear of obstructions and things that might get sucked into this because this will generate a lot of wind, especially this wheel here, and it will suck things in and create a bad accident. So, do not stand in front of the grinder. Have your safety features on here in case this wheel explodes. If you drop a wheel, throw it out. If your wheel gets soaked with certain types of chemicals, you might want to do a safety check on if those chemicals are going to be harmful to the wheel. I like my wheel to be clean and dry. The only thing that ever touches this wheel is water and no chemicals at all. Now, this wheel, you don't really need a shroud for this. I don't even know that I could put a shroud on this. You're not going to have to worry about this wheel exploding. And if it bounces off and hits the floor, you're probably going to be able to use it again just fine. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to stand right in front of this wheel. This wheel is going to shoot out pieces of this wire. They will break off and they will shoot out at you and they will stick in you. And I have seen a large patch of these wires come out and stick in somebody's eye. This is an accident you need to avoid. You need to stay away from this if you have loose clothing. No long sleeves, no gloves, no super duper baggy t-shirts. You don't want to be right up super duper close to it. Maintain a safe distance from it and stay off to the side. And that's not this side. You want to be on this side because on this side you still have this wheel. Okay? That's shop safety for that grinder. Now again, I'm going to have that grinder mounted on a pedestal. It's going to have its own place in the shop. The pedestal is going to be heavy enough so that I will be able to lay into this without this moving. Now, one other thing, when you're doing work on either wheel, I never point my work into the wheel like this. Now, there might be occasions where you need to do that, but you need to be extremely careful because this can grab and slam it. And I have had that happen. And when that happens, you run the risk of whatever you're working on injuring you. Okay, next on our list is the oldie welder. Now, I have seen several YouTubers welding in tennis shoes, shorts, and t-shirts. That is wrong. You need to be fully protected when you're welding. A welding shirt, heavy welding shirt, heavy pants, and leather boots. Not shoes, boots, with the cuffs of the pants going over the boot. Those hot globules when you're welding can fall and go through your shoe and sizzle deep into your feet. They can do the same thing through pants and shirts. So you need an approved welding shirt, pants that can handle welding spatter. You need a good welding helmet. And you need to make sure if you have an auto visor that you routinely check the auto visor that the battery is not going dead or the battery is low. They usually have indicators or test indicators that you can check. The last thing you want is that thing not to work and you get a blast of UV right in your eyes. It's also recommended that you have a welding hat that you wear under that welding helmet because sparks will fly up and they will come down on your head. Okay, these are also approved welding gloves that I have there. I've got two different types of gloves. Those are my TIG gloves. Now you will notice on my argon bottle, it's chained. See the chain? And it's secured, so that bottle cannot fall. Okay, that falls and you break that, you've got a rocket launching in your shop. You don't want that to happen. Now as you can see, we have our milling machine there, and as you can see, I have a reminder that we're playing with a dangerous tool. Now when you're operating a milling machine, you do not wear super loose clothing, jewelry, earrings, rings, long sleeve shirts, super baggy t-shirts. You don't wear none of that. No sleeves. Do you understand? No sleeves. No gloves. This thing will grab a glove and suck you right in and you're done. Case in point, Orange County Choppers back when they were on the air many years ago. Rick Petco was on the drill press and they had some lame ass shop policy where you had to wear gloves in the shop to protect your hands. And he was on the drill press, working on the drill press with his gloves, and the drill press snagged the glove and wrenched him right up in the glove. He ended up having to go to the hospital and get a whole bunch of stitches in his finger because of a stupid asinine rule. You do not wear gloves, do not wear long sleeves, do not wear loose clothing, do not wear jewelry. Now, there's a lot of different tools that will cause a lot of massive injury, and this is one of them. That end mill will jack you up big time. It will shear the skin off your knuckles really quick. Just about any tool that's going to go in here is going to do that. It's taken me a little while to figure what shop safety should be in my shop, and I realized having mats down here, I was fiddling with them and kicking them and moving them and always adjusting them with my feet. And I realized, this is a bad idea. So I got rid of the mats. You don't want to have a running machine. You don't want to be operating the machine and be fumbling with the mat, and then you accidentally trip or slip or fall into the machine. It happens. So I decided no mats, no more. This is a dangerous machine. It will remove your fingers. It could remove your hand. It could do a lot of damage. So we moved to the metal lathe, and there's a link to a video on Reddit that I want you to go and look at because it shows exactly what one of these can do. And let me warn you now, the video is more graphic than you can possibly imagine. Again, we'll start with no mat. You do not want to trip and fall into this machine. This machine is far more dangerous than that milling machine over here. This machine has the capability of taking your arm off at least. Now this is a 14 by 40. I don't know if it could suck me in, but a larger lathe I'm sure could, and that's a common accident with lathes. Now recently I saw a YouTuber post a video, which he has since removed, explaining why he wears long sleeves around the lathe. Listen, I don't care. I don't give a crap what your excuse is. As a default, do not wear long sleeves around the lathe. You are not professional enough. You haven't been in the shop enough. I don't care if you've been in the shop 800 years. You do not wear long sleeves around the lathe. You do not wear loose clothing. You do not wear loose jewelry. The reason for this rule is because you don't want to allow any sort of chance happening where you can get injured because you were wearing long sleeves or gloves or something. Just don't take the chance. Do not give the opportunity. You're not going to stand there in long sleeves and gloves and all kinds of dangly jewelry and say that you know what you're doing. If you're doing that and you're on YouTube, you're setting a bad example to everybody else. And you're, it's up to everybody to make their own safety rules. It's your own responsibility. But, I'm going to say that the time is probably coming when somebody is going to end up getting sued on YouTube because someone got hurt, and they're going to say, well, this guy was doing blah, blah, wearing long sleeves, and yada, 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 and there's going to be a big lawsuit. It's going to happen eventually, if it hasn't already. So what I'm telling you is a default: do not wear loose clothing around these machines. And that lathe is by far one of the most dangerous machines in the shop. It can take your scalp off, it can crush your head, it can take an arm off, it can do a lot. And if, you're whining and complaining about a hot chip embedding into your arm, maybe the machine shop's not the place for you. Because that's what happens. I get hit with hot chips all the time, and I just deal with it. Sometimes they end up in places where I don't like. Now, one thing that's consistent all the way around on all the machines: safety glasses. And these are American optical frames, and I have special lenses in there, which can take a lot of impact. That doesn't mean they're foolproof, okay? No, I don't have side skirts on there. You can get side skirts on your safety glasses. If there is something that I'm really worried about, I've got safety glasses with side skirts that I'll wear. And if I have something that I'm really, 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 really worried about, I have the safety glasses on top of one of these. Once again, we visit our old friend, the anger grinder. So this is probably the most abused tool I see anybody ever using. No guard, no handle, one-handed, no gloves, and then they plop them down like that. Okay, so first of all, you need that guard, and you need that handle. And you need to be able to maintain 2 points of contact at all times, because this anger grinder will kick, and it will kick hard. And when it does, you'll get a big scar on your finger like that, because that's exactly what happened to me. From there to there was all the way to the bone, and it was split wide open, and all the way back to there. And that was from a flap disc, because I was holding it with one hand while holding the work with the other, and it kicked and hit my finger. I can only imagine what would have happened if there had been a cutting disc on there. So, you need to have firm control of this device. This is by far the single most dangerous power tool, hand tool in the shop. Now when I use it, I've got the heaviest gloves, cowhide, both sides. Heavy cowhide on the knuckle side, heavy cowhide on the finger side. This is the only tool that I wear gloves with, aside from the welder. And welding gloves are not heavy enough to protect your hands. You need heavy cowhide to protect your hands. They're all you got. The doctor told me I was extremely lucky because there's 2 fine nerves, or 1 fine nerve and a fine blood vessel that runs the length of the finger, and I just missed them both. If I had gotten one or the other or both, bye-bye finger. So, don't take a chance. And I can tell you that one of the biggest YouTubers on YouTube that does shop videos exercises absolutely zero anger grinder safety at all. And a lot of you minions are out there worshiping this guy, watching what he does, taking what he does as gospel fact. And then you're going to go in the shop and mimic what he does, and you're going to end up in the emergency room. Another thing, you never, ever put the anger grinder down like that. If for any unknown reason that thing powers on, you've got a problem. You always put it like that. Always. Now, when I'm using the anger grinder, I always have one of those on. I never use this without this. That is part of my revised safety protocols for using that machine right there because of what happened with my finger, okay? So, when you're using this, you'll notice the guard. Now, I've probably whatever I was doing, I was probably working like this. You'll see that the guard is facing me. So if I'm going to be cutting something, I'm more than likely going to be like this. So the guard is facing me and the wheel is facing out there. Because if it breaks, I don't want to give it a chance to embed itself into my forehead or into my chest or anything else. And if you think that a wheel will not explode, There's Exhibit A right there. That's exactly what that is. And I left it there to be a reminder of what not to do. And thankfully, I was practicing all of the safety rules, and I didn't get hit with any of the fragments. You will notice there's a fragment there, and there's a fragment there. That's exactly where those landed, and I left them there. And here's a bag of more fragments from that disc. Now, there's a lot of different tools in the shop that you need to use safely. I haven't gone into a table saw or a band saw. Obviously, if you have any amount of common sense, then you should know to use a pusher stick and stay the heck out of the way, because a table saw can kick material back at you, and you use a pusher stick so that you don't push your finger through the blade. Same thing with the bandsaw. When I was in high school, one of the guys was on the bandsaw, wasn't using a pusher stick. He slipped and pushed 2 of his fingers through the bandsaw and lopped them both completely off. So, again, I am making this video because of the YouTubers out there that have shitty-ass shop safety practices, and they need to be called out, and I'm calling them out. I'm not going to call them by name, but if you're not using your tools on YouTube in a safe manner, then all these other people watching you are going to take what you're doing as gospel fact, mimic what you're doing, and God help you if you try to say something in the comments, because, you'll get piled up on and pretty much jumped and beaten to a bloody pulp, because, you don't know what you're talking about, because, this guy's the biggest shop YouTuber around, and, well, he doesn't do any of that. He doesn't wear gloves or certain types of protection because, he's been in the shop forever. He knows what he's doing. No. I don't care how long you've been in the shop. Human beings are prone to accidents. Human beings are prone to mistakes. You just, the darndest thing can happen, and then it's all over. So don't give anything a chance when you're in the shop. That's what I'm telling you. And don't listen to these friggin' clowns if they're telling you that they know what they're doing and they can do this and it's okay. It's not okay. So as a default, now you know, if you want to be in the shop and you want to have your own little machine shop, now you have a default standard by which you can go by to create some shop safety. You are not any different than anybody else. So in the description, there are a few links. I'm not going to post any of those pictures on the video because they're pretty graphic, but go to the description, look at the Russian lathe accident, and I'm just warning you now, it's extremely graphic, okay? And then there's another link that I'm going to post, which is going to show some anger grinder accidents. If you think you're immune to those, well, the people in those pictures thought the same thing. All right, folks, have a good one.